Welcome everybody to the Beefy Boys Breakdown. It's episode 124 of the Breakdown. We're going to be going over UFC Fight Night, Vera versus Sandhagen, and start off as the prelims, like really only we do every card, every fight, every week. And man, pretty dope fight to start off. And we got Victor Altamirano taking on Benicio Salvador. Got to admit, I don't know a ton about Salvador, but I like Altamirano as a flyweight prospect. I've been pretty high on him, so I was pretty excited to see him jerking the curtain.
Me too, man. I've always considered, like, from what we've seen from Altamirano, like, well-rounded fighter, which, like, fits the narrative of flyweight, right? Like, you need to be good at everything at flyweight because it's, like, the most technique-ridden division because it's the least weight. That being said, didn't know anything about Salvador except that I hate his haircut. Which, for anyone at home that didn't see it, it's just literally the top front part of his forehead has hair on it. All the rest is shaved bald.
Like a reverse mullet almost, like a reverse rat tail.
Yeah, a reverse rat tail. Like, dude, that's terrible. Like the reverse of Charles Johnson. Like, take Charles Johnson's hair on the back and move it straight to the front.
You combine Salvador and Charles Johnson and you have like a normal haircut. Like
yeah, you'd actually have a head of hair there. That being said, man, he has that wild capoeira style, which, like I said, didn't know anything about him, so it was all like shocking to see it when he would first throw it. And some of those shots were landing. Like, credit to Altamirano's chin.
For sure, man. From a betting perspective, this was an even coin toss, minus 110 each way. However, I dug a little deeper, and it's hard to say I found value because I didn't want to bet against Salvador because I didn't know enough. I didn't want to just blindly ride Altamirano whenever Vegas is giving Salvador plenty of respect.
True.
So that kind of scared me off of betting straight up Altamirano money line. But the over on this one, mind you, this is a flyweight bout, was set at 1.5 rounds. Now, when this fight started, it was a furious pace, and each guy was having. So you understood kind of why Vegas saw it that way. They weren't even necessarily wrong, but honestly, bro, like about like betting trends, like you're giving me 1.5 rounds over under on flyweights. I'm pretty much going to hammer the over every time, and I promise you, I'll turn a profit doing that.
What was the number they were giving you? Like minus 150 or?
Minus 195, so not great, but I put it in a two-legger with Manel Kopp at minus 190 for a dope little two-legger. And I don't know, like I said, you're going to give me, like I said, it wasn't plus money, but just, it wasn't so much the number that got me, it was what it was set at.
It's like guaranteeing yourself that you can turn 20 into 30. You know what I'm saying? Because you bet 20 to win 10 to have 30. Like, this is like a free $10 essentially on a $20 bet. That's how that is structured.
Flyweights, man. Flyweight, you're going to give me 1.5 rounds for a flyweight fight. Like, I'm pretty much going to take it.
Like, right, where they're all ultra technical, so submission defense is at a high, and submission offense is therefore
cardio's at a high.
Cardio's at a high. Power's at a low.
Power's at a low.
That's like the like mathematically on paper. If I showed it to you, you'd be like, oh, this should be a decision, which most flyweight fights are.
I haven't even been betting that many over-unders, man. But I don't know, man. I felt so good about it. I was, like, actually shocked. I was, like, double-checking. I was like, this is 1.5 rounds, right, for the men's flyweight fight. I was, like, fucking double-checking. So
yeah,
because spent enough time on that, but I was stoked to find that.
I could even see him offering 2.5 at, like, minus 150 reasonably, and I'd still probably take that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's close enough where I'm still like, oh, if it's a decision, I might as well take this parlay. It's a great parlay.
Sure,
but that being said, let's go ahead and break it down because it's a close fight.
Yeah, awesome fight, too. Fantastic way to start the card. I might actually go out and say it. Obviously not a name value. Obviously not like a meaningful. But as far as just like, hey, these fights are entertaining, prelims kicked the shit out of the main card. Prelims were awesome.
For sure, that. And I would also
largely
say
due to this fight. This fight was set the tone.
Yeah, and I would also say that, like, whenever you have 10 fights and, like, you can get this amount of engagement out of the 10 fights rather than having 14, it doesn't feel watered down. Like, this didn't feel watered down at all.
No, it didn't. Especially like sometimes, like we just had the conversation lately, where like, is the UFC getting kind of like watered down over like I guess
too many
saturated? Like
too many people on the roster.
For sure. So man, round one I thought was the closest round. Granted, all 3 rounds were pretty close. I just thought that the other 2 had more of a clear winner. I thought this one could kind of be seen either way, at least how I saw it, because you had Altamirano. With the takedown and the 3 minutes of control time. But then it's pretty much undeniable that Salvador won the damage battle. But it was kind of a little bit at the start of the round, a little bit at the end of the round, and Altamirano's chin held out fantastic. I leaned Altamirano. 3 minutes of control time was a lot, but I did think that, like, if you're a damage-heavy scorer, then you giving it to Salvador wouldn't have been, like, too out of pocket.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think Salvador landed bigger shots, but I would say that Altamirano also landed some shots here and there. Showed a crazy chin. Like, nothing looked like it hurt him, so visually it wasn't as impressive what Salvador was doing, even though you know they're landing hard. And then additionally, that 3 minutes of control, man, like more than half the round, you were in complete control. I thought it was too much for Salvador to overcome with the amount of damage he got off, so I did go to Altamirano as well there. All three judges did.
For sure. Okay, that's good to know. It's good to know. Now, round two, I mean, fucking banger. I mean, you got Altamirano landing like 3 head kicks in the round, all clean, but then started to kind of, like, I don't want to say gas, but definitely started to slow down a little bit. And then, Salvador kept a fantastic pace, was stuffing the takedowns this round, was really marching forward, had the knockdown control and the pressure. I like the activity from Salvador in round 2, even though if you score the round to the guy that landed 3 head kicks, like, you're not a crazy person.
So I thought Salvador's activity was really good, but man, stuffing the takedowns was huge, right? Because not allowing Altamirano to establish any of that control meant that he was going to maintain the power advantage, even if the strikes were even, essentially. Or under even and not in his favor. That all being considered, I did score it to Salvador based on the damage and the good defensive wrestling.
Yeah, for sure, man. So we're seeing it the same way, but ultra close fight. Like either of these rounds.
All 3 judges still with us. 19-19.
Wow. That's wild. I'm not mad at it. Obviously,
this card has bad judging, too. This card has bad judging.
So, like, that's why I'm so shocked, is because these rounds, that I thought these are the rounds that could honestly go either way. Like, we'll see some rounds later in the fight or later in the card that are judged a way that you kind of can't even hardly see how they get there. But this one, if they would have given a round either way, I wouldn't have been mad. But either way, we got 19-19 on all scorecards, including ours going into the third round. Another heater of the third round, man. You got Salvador kind of ending the round on top, dropping damage. But really, outside of that, the whole rest of the round was Altamirano. He got 2 takedowns. He was landing some big left hands on the feet, some decent ground and pound once it hit the mat. I liked Altamirano's body of work, even though ending around on your back, eating shots, not advisable when you're trying to eke out a decision. But I still think I liked his work throughout the round.
So I definitely had Altamirano ahead with about 30 seconds to go. And with every shot that Salvador was landing at the end, I was getting closer to being tipped. I said that I could see a judge even leaning that round over to him just based on the way it ended. That being said, I still scored to Altamirano. We're in lockstep the whole way through this fight. Every judge is, too. They all saw Altamirano.
Wow.
We all came to the same scorecard, 29-28 Altamirano. I think the right guy wins here. I think Salvador put up a hell of a fight, though.
Yeah, Salvador's an exciting prospect, man. This was some good matchmaking, like the matchmaking you didn't know you needed. You know what I mean? Like I didn't think I was going to care about this fight. Granted, I like Altamirano, but the Salvador guy is a very interesting prospect. The overhits, so started the night off good from a betting perspective. Through no fault of my own, really, this would be the last bet really the only bet that I hit all night. I didn't bet a ton of fights. I had a total of 5 bets, but only covering 3 fights. There was one fight I went extra hard on and 8 extra dicks on, but we'll get to that one on the main card. But yeah, man, this I guess we'll talk about it now a little bit. The second leg of this parlay was going to be Manel Kopp at minus 190. He was supposed to take on Alex drop out of fights Perez, and
Alex pull out Perez.
Yeah, I bet he has
0
kids because his pull out game is so strong.
Yeah.
Alex Perez, man, like, there is a bad luck to it, but there also has to be a level of, you hear every fighter talk about it on podcasts and interviews about how pretty much every fighter has fought hurt, has overcame some adversity, has had a night where they didn't want to fight but still did. Now, word has it that Perez had a seizure backstage, and, that sucks, but, like, it's almost unbelievable. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 canceled fights, all since 2021. So in less than 2 years, he's canceled 9 fights. I don't think anybody else in the UFC roster is even close. Like, I don't think anybody's at 6 canceled fights. Especially now that Leon's got the train back on the tracks. But
Well, it's so weird that Alex Perez is ranked number 6 too. Like, has maintained a ranking throughout all these cancellations.
yeah, it's bullshit. Especially because he's coming off of 2 losses. Like when he has fought, he's lost. Now they're high level losses. You got a loss to Figueiredo in 2020 and Pantoja in 2022. But those were both first round finishes.
And Pantoja looked fantastic against him in round 1. So good, so much so that we were like calling for the Pantoja title shot after that. But maybe that's Alex Perez falling off.
His last wins were against Formiga in 2020, who I don't believe is still in the UFC.
No,
and
he's
Jordan Espinosa. In Jordan Espinosa in 2020, who's also I don't believe still in the UFC. So, I mean, this is like worse than Covington's resume. You know what I mean? As far as beating up guys who just no longer matter, and then just not fighting ever. So we got the 125-pound Covington here. No, I'm obviously saying that tongue in cheek, but listen, we don't have to spend too much time on it. I just want to talk about Kopp. I felt very strongly about Kopp for all these reasons, pretty much that like Perez is just kind of, what do you want to call it, washed or bad luck, whatever. I think if he did make it to the octagon, that was going to go Kopp's way. I felt pretty good about that. But yeah, we were talking flyweight, so I had to hit on that, and it had to do with some betting, my betting picks. But we can keep it pushing to surprise, more flyweights here. We got Daniel Lacerda plus 210 taking on CJ Vergara minus 250, and this fight was fucking awesome.
It's fight of the night, and it's only 2 rounds. So for people at home, keep that in mind. Because there were other really good 3-round fights on this card.
There were. This fight was unreal. Man, what's up with these flyweight comebacks, man? My big Schnell Mudarji vibes. You know what I mean?
Very much so. Very much
so. Lacerda coming in plus 210, CJ Vergara minus 250. I mean, round 1 was wild, man. I had a 10-8 Lacerda.
I definitely did. I mean, Vergara's literally sprinting away for 15 to 20 seconds of the round trying to avoid the knockout.
Proved to be very wise.
Yeah, good on him.
By any means.
Good on him.
But you could argue that's like not, by definition, I don't think you're allowed to do that. Like, I think that, like, that's not actively defending, right? Or refs will tell you, like,
you're not supposed to turn your back to your opponent.
Turn your back to your opponent. Yeah, that's not protecting yourself at all times, even though it kind of was. I don't know. That's a weird kind of, word soup there. How do you want to define defending yourself at all times? Like in military, the defense often includes retreating. So, I mean,
it was odd though, right? Because it was like tactile retreats, right? Like he would like duck under a shot and like sprint to their side and like wait for Lacerda to like charge him, and then like try to circle his way out and end up sprinting away again, and then turn and then like circle, sprint. Did that like 3 times, and it was getting caught here and there.
And then at the very end of the round, like I said, after nearly being stopped like multiple times, it was a head kick that started kind of the downward spiral, if I'm not mistaken, right? Then it was Lacerda land a head kick, or am I tripping there?
Yeah.
And then just was literally sprinting around the octagon, like almost knocking him out every time he would touch him. But by the end of the round, Vergara was somehow survived, recovered, and was even throwing back and landing some. Granted, I don't think Vergara's couple lands at the end of the round mitigate the 10-8. I think it's still a 10-8. And I think, did every judge give this a 10-8? I believe so.
I believe so as well. Let me make sure. No. So 2 judges gave 10-9 here, which is absolutely insane.
What the fuck? Yeah, that's so ridiculous.
One of those judges was Joel Ojeda. This is his 2nd fight he's ever judged in his life. His 4th fight in his life that he's ever judged is the main event. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's really weird that he got that assignment. But we both had a 10-8, correct?
Yeah, and so did Saul D'Amato, the only Vegas judge. The other 2 were hometown judges. And they didn't give Vergara's fighting out of San Antonio. So you do the math, people at home.
God damn it, UFC. Now, round 2, almost the exact opposite for Vergara. As dominant as Lacerda was in round 1, Vergara was that dominant in round 2.
Well, you could see Lacerda getting tired in the last 15 seconds of round 1, too.
Which, like, kind of like rightfully so, right? Like I don't think anybody in their right mind would tell Lacerda, like even hindsight 2020, like, oh, you shouldn't have gone for the finish there. Like he was so close to
Yeah,
it.
right. Like hairs away.
And so but you're right. So Lacerda fading a little bit. Vergara recovered miraculously. Like honestly, like his ability to like honestly look like round one never happened was like impressive as fuck, both mentally and physically, right? Like
Yeah, it
to be
was
able
crazy.
to like a quarterback after you throw a pick six, like all right, never happened. Like come out here and like new drive, starting
Right,
on the 20.
like same game plan, except he started to catch him down the center a lot harder and a lot cleaner at the start, and that was what ended up leading him to get it to the floor. I thought he had it locked in with the arm triangle finish. Ends up that Lacerda escapes that, eats
Yeah.
nasty ground and pound, almost gets choked out, goes back to eating more ground and pound, and finally just gives up.
Also, like, what a dog of Vergara to like after getting like tuned up and hurt like pretty bad, head kicked, like almost finished in round one. Like he was not gun shy at all in round two. Like
Nope.
like it literally is like it never happened, both mentally and physically. Like he wasn't deterred, he wasn't scared. You said, like to your point, he didn't even really change his game plan. He was just like, all right, let's try this again.
Yeah,
Fucking dog.
like I'm gonna meet him down the middle. I'm gonna dodge the kicks, or I'm gonna block the kicks, and I'm gonna hurt him and get him down, get in close and get him down.
So 4 minutes and 4 seconds into the second round, Vergara ends up getting the finish due to ground and pound elbows, TKO. Would have been a 10-8 for sure had the round finished. I was actually
100%. I thought it was gonna be 10-8, 10-8, and then going into 3, and we were gonna get like a crazy decision.
Me too. I thought that too. Now, granted, after realizing that the judges didn't give round one 10-8 Lacerda, then I'm glad that we got a finish because some fuckery would have happened if it would have went to decision. Like
No
some
right?
weird fuckery. So I'm honestly glad Vergara got the finish because right man, wrong man, regardless, if that went to a decision, shit was going to get squirrely.
Exactly right. So like already the judges are getting loose with it.
Yes, sir. And so yeah, that was fight of the night, right?
Yeah.
Well deserved. Vergara, hometown guy. Man, all these flyweights looked awesome, man. Like, honestly, you could even do cross matchmaking. Like, Altamirano Vergara makes sense, and Lacerda Salvador would be fucking awesome.
Yeah, Lacerda Salvador is so
would
fun.
low key be a heater.
That's so fun.
How often do you get excited about the losers bracket? Like that's a heat.
Hardly ever, but like, man, the skill sets both those guys bring in, like the styles
They match
fight.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that being said, man, let's keep it pushing. We'll move up to some weights, some welterweight. I got Preston Parsons, minus 110. Trevin Giles, minus 110. Another pick'em. Back-to-back pick'ems is always fun.
Yeah, the fucking handicappers just mailed it in on these.
But did they, though? Like,
yeah, right?
So close.
They were close. You're right, man. Good call. And, yeah, I think this is the first fight, because this one does go to – this is the first of many split decisions on the card. And – rightfully so. Like rounds 1 and round 3, I thought like legitimately could pretty much go either way, with round 2 having a clear winner. So I have feelings about this one, but I'm also open. I'm really interested to see how you scored it, man. How you see round 1? Oh, we got Preston Parsons, Trevin Giles, welterweight. How do you see round 1?
Man, so super tight round that like really could go either way, I think, depending on how you score it and what you value. That being said, I thought Giles' jab and his 1-2 were super crisp. I thought Parsons was eating him really well, but it doesn't mean that they weren't doing damage. Granted, Parsons was getting off nice strikes in the clinch. Did get his back, had the multiple sub attempts. All that being considered, I thought Giles did a lot of damage, and I like that damage. I went 10-9 Giles. But I can see the 10-9 here for Parsons as well, because he, like I said, got off some good shots, and also, what am I trying to say here? And also didn't get any damage on the ground. Like, there were submission attempts, but is that damage?
Yeah, for sure, man. And the audience is going to get both sides of the coin here, because I leaned Parsons. But like I said, I openly admit this was definitely could have gone either way. You're right, though. Giles' jab, pretty much the whole first of the round, was just Giles landing jabs and 1-2s down the pipe. And it was beautiful, and it was damaging, and it was impactful, to your point. And he also ended the round on top. So it sounds like I'm describing a Giles win here, and to a certain extent, I am describing a very close competitive round where both guys had success. But Parsons, I thought he had Giles hurt bad. He had him wobbled. He had him hurt. It was real dicey for Giles there. And then also he when he has him hurt, he hops on that choke attempt, ends up in full mount. Thought he got way closer to finishing Giles than Giles got to finishing him. And it's like it gets down to semantics. Like, what is damage? Is damage cumulative?
Yeah, no, it's
shots,
it's a hard round to score in that aspect because like Parsons has those like two instances of like crazy close to finishing the fight, but Giles has like this more consistent accumulation of damage.
A better body of work over the course of the round. I feel you. I just thought that those big moments were big.
They were big. They're big.
Yeah,
big.
Real big moments for Parsons. So yeah, we gave you both sides of the coin there. I like I said, you're not a crazy person. Giles did a lot of good work in round one.
Every judge agrees with you though. 10-9 Parsons.
Wow. Yeah, man. I mean, I think it was the fact that, like, listen to those dominant positions. I mean, you wobble a guy on the feet, hop on a choke attempt, end up in full mount. Now, some person could say that's a whole lot of like woulda, coulda, shoulda, and Giles is actually, putting pen to paper there, putting, rubber to road. But yeah, I like Parsons' big moments there. But interesting. I like your argument you bring to the table for Giles. Now, round two, I thought was the clearest round to score for either man of any round in the whole fight. I thought round two was, I'll even go out and say, at least by context of this fight, clearly for Giles. Really just more of the same. The jab, compiling that damage with the jab and the straight punches. He got a takedown, later in the round with some ground and pound, and then he defended Parsons' takedown. So I thought round two was fantastic for Giles. For really the only round I thought that had a clear winner. And, yeah, I mean, fantastic round for Giles, I thought.
Yeah, I thought round two was probably his best round.
Yeah.
Maybe any guy's best round of the fight, I guess, for clarity's sake, right?
Yep.
No, he did get outlanded in that round, but I thought he landed damaging strikes. He stuffed takedowns. And I thought the way the round ended visually with him on top was like a great visual ending for him. I scored it 10-9.
I agree. So you have a 2018 Giles going into the third. You have Parsons needing to finish. I have a 19-19 all tied up, and I believe as do the judges.
Yeah, probably everyone on the planet has 19-19. I think I was just sipping on that Kool-Aid.
No, I mean, like I said, I like Giles working round one. I see where you're coming from there. I don't think you're crazy. Now round three, another fucking nut hair close round. And it really was similar to the first round, to where you got Giles landing jabs, steady as she goes, putting down good body of work, and then you had Parsons just landing the occasional bomb, like definitely landing the bigger, harder strikes. But it was almost flip-flop, because in round one that me and the judges gave to Parsons, Giles won the first half of the round, Parsons won the second half of the round. Round three, I thought Parsons really won the first half of the round, and Giles won the second half of the round. Giles, more the same, damage with the straight punches. But what I thought really won Giles the round, and I did go 10-9 Giles in three, he was able to reverse that position, reverse Parsons' takedown, and get some good ground and pound off. And really on a round that was pretty goddamn even on the feet. I thought that was the difference.
Yeah, I literally gave it to, or I wrote in my notes, I gave it to Giles as well here. So I was surprised your split decision, as I'm sure you can imagine. But I understand why, right?
30-27 Giles over here. Yeah. This fucking guy. Ojeda Jr. over
here. I'm riding.
Harrison Ojeda.
Yeah, Giles is the native guy here, too, so I'm riding. But, yeah, no, I liked the end of the round for sure. I also thought that with the damage being pretty even on the feet, it seemed like in all the wrestling exchanges, Parsons was also still taking damage there, whereas Giles wasn't.
Yeah.
So I thought those extra exchanges worth of damage were essentially what led me to go 10-9 Giles.
For sure, man. And so two judges go 29-28. Giles, same scorecard as me. One judge. So I guess one judge gave Parsons the third round?
Yeah. Sal D'Amato gave him 1 and 3.
which I don't hate. I see how you get there, right? Like, I only really hate a judging whenever I'm like, how did you even arrive there? You know what I'm saying? But I can clearly see how he got there. This was, like, I think, a good, like, example of a split decision. You know what I mean? I think it was, yeah, fucking, there was a landslide over here from Harrison. Got his beer goggles on, but Jesus Christ. But yeah, Giles gets the win. You know, close decision. The thing about it, as good as this fight was, not the most meaningful. I mean, both of these guys are pretty much a lower tier welterweights. I think a win over Giles, you know, probably does more for Parsons than a win over Parsons does for Giles. Like,
100% agree. I think Giles is still in the meat grinder of names, and I think Parsons just got shuffled down to, like, the bottom of, like, the contenders that are going to come up and fight.
Yeah, no, I agree. He'll probably be fighting a debut guy or something along those lines. But yeah, we can keep it pushing here. Last fight on the very short, due to the Alex Perez pullout, fucking pullout game strong.
So strong.
It ends up being only a 4-fight prelims, and we finish up here with Steven Peterson minus 150 taking on Lucas Alexander plus 130 in men's featherweight division, and this was an ass whooping.
Yeah, this fight's not close in any round. The real question is, do you have 10-8s? And if so, how many?
I actually don't have any 10-8s.
Holy shit. Really?
I'm just an asshole. I just enjoy
No judge at a 10-8. But how is the first not a 10-8?
I'll let you go first then, man. Tell us how you arrived at a 10-8.
Okay, so Alexander's getting off leg kicks so much so that he makes Peterson switch stances into southpaw. Peterson can't fight in southpaw, so he starts eating shots to the body with kicks, punches. He's eating headshots with punches. He gets dropped at the end of the round, pretty much. I mean, he's moving forward the whole round, sure. But, like...
I think that the visual of it, and, like, none of those shots that he ate / that Alexander landed, none of them were, like, Oz, you know what I mean? They were all just very, like, tight, crisp. Nothing landed just crazy damaging or impactful. I think it was just like an eye test thing for the 10-9 because, like, body of work and how competitive the fight was and how, like, the margin of victory was very big. I feel you on all those points. I just don't feel like Lucas landed anything that, like, you know, really. I don't think at any point was Peterson in risk of, like, getting finished or really look even all that hurt, even though he was eating a ton of shots. Just that's the 10-9 argument.
I mean, at the very end of the round with 6 seconds to go, though, he scored that punch that dropped Peterson to the ground.
He did get that knockdown end of round. I don't hate it. It wasn't a competitive round.
Because I'll be honest, I had it 10-9, and I literally had my notes written 10-9, and then I have, at the end, I go, oh, after the knockdown, it's a 10-8. Because I said it was debatably a 10-8, and then he got the knockdown, and I was like, well, that has to be the stamp that means 10-8. Because the whole round he dominated, too, right? Like, it was all 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I don't hate it, and I'm not even that bullish on my 10-9. You might have even sold me. You could argue it wasn't even the most damaging round. Like, I thought, in my opinion, like, round 2 was debatably like a wider margin of victory than round 1. So I guess you're arguing that should be a 10-8 too.
I am.
My guy's out here hating those Khabib scorecards.
I was loose. I gave another 10-8 in round 2. I'm glad you bring it up. Glad you bring it up. I was really questioning
McGee over here. Just
for me,
welfare 10-8.
For me, it was really a question of, like, was he going to get him out of there in this round or not? Like, that was my question. It wasn't, is he winning the round? It's, is he going to finish him this round? And whenever I start asking myself that question, someone's getting their ass whooped.
You're right. I was asking the question, and then Peterson was answering it like, nah, I'm going to be here.
He's just so goddamn tough, man. He's just so goddamn tough.
The chin, he was still walking forward the whole time. I think that's whenever it's hard for me to give it 10-8, whenever somebody's like, will doesn't look broken. Like, if they're still in it, like, if they're still, like, they don't look discouraged, like, if they don't look scared, if they don't look hurt. I know that's not the textbook definition of a 10-8, but it's just hard for me to, like,
the visual,
like, really,
the visual,
the eye test. Yeah. But I see where you're coming from because, like I said, I thought round 2 was a wider margin of victory for Alexander than round 1. So honestly, by your logic, you given round 1 and 10-8, you'd almost have to give round 2 and 10-8. It's like I said, you're not a crazy person. You're kind of actually being very consistent with your scoring. But as am I.
As are all the judges 10-9ing this fight. But how is okay? My question is, if 3 is a 10-9, and I think 3 is still clearly a 10-9 to Alexander, 1 and 2 aren't even anything like 3.
Well, see, in round 3 there was the knockdown. I honestly forgot about the knockdown in round 1, but there was a knockdown in round 3 that I thought was like worse.
No doubt. And he got the cut on the head that was like leaking for Peterson.
And the ground and pound.
But Peterson was firing back, and he was walking him down in the round. He was landing some shots.
In the dick 1,000% on purpose.
100%. That was awesome. Alexander also, I think, broke his hand, so he wasn't firing back with near as much power.
Yeah, you're right. So, yeah, all 3 judges had a 30-27 Alexander. I had a 30-27 Alexander. Harrison had it like 30-22 or something like that.
30-25 guy.
Jesus. Big Alexander guy. Peterson retires, and honestly, it was kind of real because he even admitted, sometimes we ask ourselves, like, was this a pre-planned retirement? Yeah. Was this one last money grab? He openly admitted, like, I didn't think I was going to be retiring today, but this guy just showed me that I can't hang.
Yeah, like different words.
I
was the Vegas favorite. Like, I thought I had what it would take to win this fight. Because this kid's young, and he's like, this new generation is like different. Like, it's hard for me to keep up with their speed, their techniques. Yeah, and essentially, it was like, I'd rather.
I was saying like the game caught up to him. Like, I'm not about to like make up this gap at this age because he's only like, I think 32, 33, but he's one of those guys that's been fighting for fucking 15 years. Yeah. So a lot of mileage on the tires there. I kind of agree with everything he said. Like, I mean, Steven Peterson wasn't about to make a run in the modern featherweight. He's not like so bad that he's not UFC caliber, but he is right. If he would have had 2-3 more fights, they probably all look like this, the Contender Series savages. Just, kind of getting fed to the next generation.
I also liked what he said about, like, he wants to potentially work for the UFC in some sort of facet and or be like a fight promoter and or start his own fight organization.
Yeah, I thought that was a little bit weird, to be honest. I think you got to kind of, granted, I know he was probably a little bit concussed and probably not thinking super straight, but he's like, yeah, UFC, I honestly want to be either a competitor to your business or part
work
of your
for
business.
you. Yeah,
like whatever one. Like,
wait, what? Yeah, I felt like he was reaching for too much different shit at once too. Like, you got to make your mind up. Like, you can't be a promoter and also run the organization. Like, Dana White doesn't run the UFC. You know what I'm saying? Like, the UFC is ran by WME. He just promotes all the fights.
He was talking about being on the desk. Like I'm just going to ask you like a very straightforward question. Like, do you want to see Steven Peterson on the desk? Like,
no, because every time he's up there, people are going to ask me who's that, and I'm going to say, who the fuck is that guy? I don't know either.
You know what I mean? And I don't know. It's not like Joe Band's like irreplaceable, or like he could probably be that level of guy.
At least I know Joe Band. At least he's a good-looking guy. Proven by him being a Calvin Klein model while he was also fighting in the UFC. Yeah, also, like, I know his name. He has good fights.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, it sounds tough, and I like that. Like, obviously, we want to see these guys have success, like, post-fighting. I think, yeah, if he wants to start some small promotion, I think he's from Texas, sure, or coach, or probably maybe go that route. I don't know. When you started talking about, like, oh, I want to maybe be on the mic, I couldn't see it. Like, yeah, I couldn't see it.
That'd be like fucking, oh, God, I can't remember his name. It's like a guy like Brad Tavares essentially being like, I want to do this. Or who's the football player from Alabama that...
Eric Anders.
Yeah, like Eric Anders saying that. Like, but even he'd have a better argument.
He has the cachet because people that have watched ESPN in the past 10 years know who the fuck Eric Anders is.
Right, but it's like if I'm telling you Eric Anders has more name value than you ain't got a shot in hell.
I agree. No, I mean, maybe some contender series shit, maybe some kind of like UFC Fight Pass level promotions.
Yeah,
Maybe
I've
work his way up to the grinder or something like that, or like maybe holler at me in 10 years when you built up a resume. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't see it pulling the DC going straight to the booth. You know what I mean?
yeah, nor do I. Nor
Uh,
do I.
and then as far as Lucas Alexander goes, I mean, that makes him 1-1 in the UFC. So that's another thing. It's not like Peterson lost to some world beater. You know what I'm saying? In his last fight, Alexander lost to Joe Anderson Brito, got finished in the first round. So, but that being said, Alexander's striking looked fantastic, and he lost to a grappler. So definitely needs to round out the game. But I think this was like a good showcase for Alexander in the final prelim spot, essentially retiring a guy and just letting the striking flow. Like, good striker, real good striker. You know what name comes to mind for Alexander next? And don't ask me why, super random, but I think it would work. Juicy J. Julian
Oh,
Erosa.
Julian Erosa, because Erosa's fought Peterson before.
Yeah, and I don't know. They're both kind of long. Erosa's kind of long, can match the length, be down to
And Erosa's tough as fuck too, but is honestly a better striker.
Yeah, and it has a little bit of a submission game too, which has caused Alexander some trouble in the past. I wouldn't mind. It seems really random. I don't know why that name came to the tip of my tongue, but it did.
Yeah, he's a confusing guy, Julian Erosa. He has the one tattoo, and it's just the troll smile on his cat or on his thigh. It's like, it's the weirdest life decision. Like, were you just like blackout and like, tattoo that face on me?
But man, that wraps up the prelim segment of episode 124, the Beefy Boys breakdown, going over UFC Sandhagen versus Vera. We'll be right back in a moment with this main card breakdown. Subscribe to our channel. We break down every fight on every card every week. We'll be back.